Welcome, everyone, to yet another SDN Community Voices, our weekly touch point between you, the followers and members of the Service Design Network, and all these amazing voices that we have in the design community. My name is Felipe, and as always, I will be your ambassador and host. And today I'm very excited to bring Marina to the stage to talk about all her different experiences. She's the founder of Bloom Service Design and has been taking her consultancy for the past many years. So I'll bring her up and then she explain a little bit more. But before we dive in, a quick reminder to drop any questions you might have in the chat. We'll address during our final Q&A segment. But now let's just bring Marina and ask her to introduce herself. Hey, welcome.
Hi, thank you, Felipe. I'm so happy to be here. So many years, no, but I have Bloom Service Design for 2 years now, and I am so happy with all the results that we have been delivering for our clients.
Mm-hmm. And what is Bloom Service Design, right? So, I mean, we had a quick chat before, but for anybody that is tuning in right now, what is this that you have been working the past 2 years?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back a little bit over my experience. So I'm a sociologist and I have a post-graduation in communication and marketing. And I've worked at big banks for 8 years. And I've went through all the areas that you might think of. So I passed through technology, customer service, product, digital product, and customer experience at the end. And after 8 years, I decided that it was time for me to change segments. And then I was talking with some friends, and then they introduced me to another friend, a great consultant, an American consultant that I was so happy to work with. And he presented me to my first project. It was in in the auto industry. And then I thought, okay, I think that all my knowledge I can apply into any type of segment. So I decided to found Bloom. Bloom is a boutique consultancy that I aim to look at the customer experience, how the experience of the customers are having with your companies, and it can be from small to big companies, and understand how we can improve it by looking into inside of your company. So, okay, it's not about customer service itself, but it's about understanding the pain points that your customer have so that we can understand what we can enhance inside your company. So that's what Bloom Service Design is for. So I enter companies and I run a diagnosis, and then I understand, okay, what we have. And I also have to understand what are your main objectives, because your customer pain points, they might not be aligned to your business objectives. So then you're not having the customers that you should have. So we should change some of the things about marketing and prospect so that we can have the customers that you have the objectives for. So basically, that's what we do.
Fair. I mean, so how was kind of this transition from big banks, big corporations to then owning your own process and owning your own company? How was kind of this process? Did you have like some mentors along the way, maybe that friend that you mentioned, or how was a little bit that process for you?
Yeah, I had two great mentors. Murilo is one of them, and Tim, that was the consultant. And so both of them were great mentors along the way. They still are. And so, and of course, my family helped me a lot. They gave me all the support that I needed to keep on going, to chasing that dream, because I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I never had the courage for it.
Yeah.
So once I was, okay, maybe this is the time, let's do it. So I took a deep dive and
Sometimes
left.
you just need that little push, right? And I think in this case, team was a little bit the push for you.
Yes, yes, he was. Exactly.
So then how was kind of then, because you had the first project, right? Was that
Hmm.
a project that then created other projects, or how did you come about then to finding other clients?
Yeah. The first project was a process improvement for customer service in the auto industry. Then the second project that I had was about implementing the customer experience into a big B2B company.
Hmm.
And it was a deep dive into their team. They already had consultancy before that ran diagnosis, like a 500 pages diagnosis, but they didn't know where to start. So I came in, I studied all the diagnoses that they had before. I ran a few other interviews and I understood that, okay, what's the objective that the business has and what we see here? This is the roadmap that you have to have for 2024, that was in 2023. So I created a detailed roadmap on what they had to do for 2024. And I also trained their teams so that they could understand how to do journey mapping, how to create personas, and starting to change all the process that they needed to change.
Yeah, I think there's something that's quite interesting, right? You said they had diagnosis done before, but they didn't know where to start. And that's where communications becomes quite a key thing, right? You cannot just deliver something to the client and just expect they're going to figure out what is the magical next step, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I do in most of my projects. I do a handover.
Mm.
So if they understand that okay, we can take over from now on, and I say, okay, but let's do a handover. So just for us to make sure that you got all the ideas and that you know how to implement what is necessary. For a few clients, I'm the one implementing. So I'm
Mm.
inside their businesses and I am implementing with their teams. So we all work together. When I enter a company, I become part of the company. So
Yeah.
it's not just, oh, she's the consultant and she doesn't. No, I'm in there. I have lunch with everyone. I know about everyone's lives and how we can work better together. So that's my main focus. How we can deliver better by working together.
Yeah, so it becomes kind of a mix of having an external view because you're coming in their process, but at the same time becoming part of their internal process for a little bit of time, right?
Exactly. Because the human factor is extremely necessary. You have to understand the complexities between people. So there are politics inside companies, there are feelings involved. So, how we understand the human factor, how we understand what are the relations set, and then we can change on top of that.
Yeah, I think this human aspect is something that going back to that aspect of the 500-page diagnosis was really missing, right? Because nobody's going to read through 500 pages. Maybe you did in the end, but most
Oh,
of
I
the
did.
time, but most of the times, a person in the company they're going to receive that and they're going to skim through it or something like that. It's not really made for a human. It's made for a computer or for a machine in the end.
Yeah, exactly. That I think that culture is something that is extremely important. It doesn't matter if you have a huge company that has different sites on different countries. The culture between them will be different.
Yeah.
If you have a company inside the same country but in different regions, their culture will be different. And sometimes you have the same segment, the same type of company, but they have totally different cultures, even if they are on the same neighborhood. So the people that do the companies, it's the people that make them everything. So we have to understand what are the main objectives behind those collaborators inside the companies.
Yeah, I think this aspect of talking about the people as the companies is quite interesting because you start seeing this more and more on the corporations themselves, right? If you think about the big US companies, Amazon, Apple, Tesla, you think about Amazon and you think about Bezos, you think about Tesla, you think about Musk, you think about Apple, you think about Cook or even Steve Jobs. So there's like this association, maybe just for the CEO, right? That is the
Mhm.
face of the company, but the company is not only that big person, but all the people that were there and are part of the kind of mechanics of the company working.
Exactly. I'm the face of Bloom, but I have a team. I have two amazing professionals working with me, and that create all the projects that we are working on. So I definitely wouldn't have the results that I have if it wasn't for them.
Yeah. And how do you think then? We're talking a lot about co-creation and the human aspect, right? But you also probably are working from companies all the way to small startups to very big corporations that have been working for many, many years. So how do we approach that for kind of different contexts when you're first meeting the client and then throughout the process?
Yeah, look, the first thing that I do is truly to understand what are their key points. So, for instance, that big company that I started, main pain was that all of a sudden they were customer experience area and they didn't know where to start.
Mm.
So that was okay. I understood their pain and I adapted all of the knowledge and frameworks that I worked with so that I could help them go through that. Um, I have a smaller case, so a psychiatrist and a neurosurgeon that they want to open up their own clinic and they didn't know where to start. So this is a project that I'm running since the birth of the idea until the implementation, and it's been quite a totally different journey. But that's because I did not have shelf product to sell. So none, my projects, they aren't already pre-made. I have all the knowledge, I have the frameworks, and first I understand the customer needs, what they are looking for. Sometimes what they are looking for is not what they need, so I try to showcase them that, look, you should do some research before. I cannot deliver something before I have doing some market research or at least running a small diagnosis inside your company. Otherwise, it will be just a project that was done and it won't be implemented because the people are not happy to implement it.
Mm. Do you think there's a big gap in the complexity of the work you're going to do for a small one or a big corporation, or it's more about figuring out how to tailor it to them?
Um, it takes longer for a bigger company because it takes more people to decide on.
Mm,
So you have more decision making, you have more egos involved, and you need to understand the politics behind so that you can see, okay, these are the power shifting here, connections that we have. So how we can change, work on it. And with a smaller project with there where I only have two decision making, it's so fast. So we have a question in the morning. we develop a solution during the day, at night it's approved, and then on the next day we can already move on with the project. So I think that the time is what it's what makes people so complex.
Yeah, I think maybe also I hear a little bit of the bureaucracy of big organizations and the decision making process, right? So maybe the person that is coming to you to try to hire Bloom is not so much the person that actually can make all the decisions. So then it creates a little feedback circle there of going through that person, then that person, then that person, then that person, then it comes back to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when you're approaching those kind of situations, how do you have like some examples of ways you can work around it or kind of help them with the whole process of decision making or the process of giving you back the answers, things like that?
I'm usually hired by the CEO or chief of staff, so that so I work directly with them.
Okay.
I try to have one-on-ones with the other decision-making people in the process, so that they are more involved and that they accept what we are working on, and not something that they will just ignore afterwards. So I try. I'm really empathetic, so I try to understand the other people. I put a lot of effort and hours into understanding those people and into understanding what is happening inside the company. Because sometimes what the CEO wants, it's not what all of his employees want or they see. And I've been through that before when I worked at big banks. So we know what the company needs. Usually the employees already know what the company needs, but the CEO isn't listening
Mm,
for their employees. And then they hire a consultancy that will listen to all the employees, will bring some, of course, will bring some fresh eyes from other companies, and will, okay, this is the path that we can move forward. And then the CEO will listen to the consultant and will say, oh, okay, this makes sense or this doesn't make sense. And then we co-create together to get into a solution.
yeah, I think that's a very important kind of insight, right? That a lot of times the people that are there are the people that know the most what's working and what is not, because they are the ones that are living that day to day.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then for that, how do you have any methods or tools or frameworks, things like that, that you like to use to try to empathize with those people?
Well, you're Brazilian too, so you know how how we work. I try to connect at first in the personal level.
Mm,
So once, and I try to showcase them that I'm not there to tell that everything is wrong, but to understand what they are doing and co-create with them.
mhm,
So through conversations, I showcase them, I understand what is happening, and I showcase them through examples from other companies how they could do better
mm,
or how we could enhance the processes that they are working, that they are not the problem. The problem is it at processes. It's how we can change the documentation of process, or how we can change and enhance the differences between, or and sometimes it's just a communication problem
mm,
between teams. So how we can elaborate on that is I run cultural workshops.
mm.
I ran one at the beginning of this year. Last year, I even went to the Philippines and I ran some cultural workshops there because people needed to have that bigger connection. and to understand that, oh, the problem that I'm facing is because of that other person. No, no. No, it's not.
Yeah.
You all work for the same company. You all have the same objective. So how can we connect the two of you so that you can work together?
Yeah, I mean, it's as when we said when we were kids that it's easy to just point to the other person and say it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault, right? But I think no matter the corporation, the size, you're always going to have things connecting to each other. So it's not anybody's specifically fault most of the time. It's just a combination of factors there that you have to understand on a bit of a deeper level.
Yeah, exactly.
And with that, do you think, because we're talking also about culture, right? So we are both Brazilian, so we have a little bit of a warmer culture in a sense. So maybe the empathizing side is a little bit part of our culture in a sense. But how do you think, or have you learned also from other cultures and other ways they kind of connect with people? And or did you have a case working with a company that maybe was not from Brazil, or if somebody that was not from Brazil, and you learn from their different ways of connecting culturally?
I think that, well, the first project that I worked was Latin America project, many countries in Latin America and Brazil. Of course, we have similar cultures, but not the same. And when you bring people to the table, that's one thing that I've seen, that it doesn't matter the culture, it will be a game changer.
Hmm.
So bring the people to the table, ask them how they think about the process, and what they think about the process, how they would do better. Bring them to work together, because it's not I don't know everything. Of course, I don't. But when we have the collective knowledge, we can build better together. So I think that that's one thing, that it doesn't matter the culture, people will feel embraced by bringing. They don't have to talk about their personal things if they're not used to that. But when you ask them, what do you think about this process, how could we enhance it, then they feel listened, they feel heard, and that they can truly, okay, I'm part of this and what I say matter. And then it's a way for you to connect everyone.
Yeah. Talking about bringing people to the table, I slightly, my finger slipped a little bit, but the idea was to now bring to all of you that are watching right now, if you have any questions for Marina, that we're going to answer them live. But I think that's, in the meanwhile, I think that's quite a powerful thought, right? In the sense that whoever you're going to put there, no matter if the entire table is all people from all over the world with different experiences, you create a collective knowledge there that's also going to be
Yeah.
unique for that table, right? It's not going to repeat itself in a similar situation.
Yes, exactly.
And with that, we don't have a question per se, but kind of a quote, a kind of phrase that Gibrat said, that you said sometimes what they are looking for is not what they need. That is all too common situation, a tricky one to navigate. So do you have any suggestions on how people can navigate a little bit those type of situations?
I try to showcase them that if we, for instance, one of the projects that I worked with was to create how their teams should act on social media.
Mm.
And they said, no, I just want you to create a guideline for my team to work on it. And I told her, okay, I can do that, but I would like to run a diagnosis before, just to make sure what is happening, and that so that people will feel heard and that they will use the guideline. afterwards.
Hmm.
And she said, no, we don't have time for that. So, and I told her, okay, no problem. So let's run the guidelines. We only did the guidelines, and we implemented it, but people struggled to start working with it. They didn't understand why they had to have that guideline, and but what we are doing is already good. Why is changing? I cannot understand. Although we tried to run the best presentation that we could, they were involved. So it was hard for that company to implement the new guidelines for them to work on social media.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? If you think I don't have the time right away, it might be that you're going to lose time later. So sometimes it's better to live a little bit more time in the beginning to make sure that the decision you're doing is the right one, or at least the best one. Maybe not the right one, you cannot always tell. Instead of having to redo the work later on, which might take even more time.
Yeah, I also had another example at the beginning of this year. One of my clients, he wanted a pitch deck and for his startup. And I said, okay, I can help you with that. But do you already have the slides that you want, the information that you want? And he said, yes, it's all done. And I said, okay, I'll have my designer to work on it. And it was so much rework, so many redoing. And I told him, and afterwards he said, oh, okay, now this is good. And then I told him, look, if you had told me before that you wanted us to create the content, what you are truly showing up, then it would be, we would do the presentation in one day. The,
Mm.
the graphic design would be done in one day, but it took way longer because we didn't have all the information that was necessary, because we didn't understood all the information that you wanted to be showcased.
Yeah. But I
So
think sometimes it's again a matter of communication, right? Sometimes you don't even know exactly to communicate what you want, and then you use other words, but then you end up leaving the designer astray on kind of a different path. That's the one that you want in the end.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Although I always try, I ask questions all the time. What should we do? Are you sure this is it? Do we have everything that we need? Can I talk with other people? But sometimes the rework will happen.
Yeah, I think there's sometimes you cannot really go away with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then with that, we're coming to the end of our time together. So thank you very much, Marina, for being here, and for everybody that watched us and interacted online. We actually do have a quick last question. Okay, we'll go for it. So Michelle is asking, great presentation. Can you speak a little to the diagnosis process versus a discovery process?
Okay. I think they are pretty similar, Michelle. It depends on the company and on the problem that we are working on. So but it is I'm sorry, I say that the diagnosis is the result that I deliver, but it is a discovery process. So I interview the key people that I map out. Then I run through documents that are necessary. And depending on the problem that we're working, then we put on some research out there with clients. If there isn't any already, then we put some research out there. And it can be a market research, or it can be some qualitative research, some interviews. So that's what I said about all the tools and the frameworks that we have. It depends on the problem that we are facing.
Mm.
I cannot tell a client that, oh, we're going to do all of these things if they don't need that.
Yeah.
So I try to be as assertive as I can, so that we won't consume so much time in the discovery part. So then, okay, these are the problem that we have discovered the problem. Now let's work on the solution. The problem is this one. Let's work on the solution with the client so that we can get into a better result. I hope I have answered your question, Michelle.
Great. And thank you, Michelle, for the question. Sorry if I started it, but now we're actually coming to the end of it. So thank you so much. And thank you also for squeezing the one last question there. It was great hearing from your own experiences and insights.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. It was great talking to you, Felipe.
Thank you. Bye. And to everybody that joined us online, thank you very much for being here, for interacting with us, and for hearing a little bit of the story of Marina now with Bloom Service Design. Just a big thank you to the community for joining and engaging live here with us. Stay connected with us through our social medias. Here's the link tree for you. We have this SDN Community Voices live every Thursday. Next Thursday, we're not going to actually have one because we're preparing ourselves for the Next Gen conference that is happening the beginning of April. So we're going to have, in 2 weeks from now, April 3rd, bringing a sneak peek of that conference. So we're bringing speakers from the Next Gen Conference 2025 to discuss our overarching theme that is there to impact. So I'm very excited to see you all there in 2 weeks' time to see this amazing roundtable of amazing speakers we're going to bring in. And without much more taking of your time, thank you very much for joining and have a good week. Bye.